Zara pressed her back against the cold metal wall of the abandoned research station. The blue lights flickered above her, casting strange shadows on her silver skin. Her large violet eyes scanned the empty corridor, listening for any sound that might mean danger. The Vorthak Empire had fallen 3 cycles ago when the humans arrived. Nobody expected the small pink creatures from the third planet to fight so hard. The galaxy thought they would surrender after the first wave of attacks. Instead, the humans did something no other species had ever done. They got angry. Really angry, Zara remembered watching the news feeds from her home planet, Kelthera. The human ships were smaller than Vorthak warships, but they moved like angry insects, swarming. Around the massive dreadnoughts, human pilots flew their tiny fighters into enemy engines, without fear of death. They called it ramming, and they did it with smiles on their faces. Now Zara was the last of her kind, hiding in the ruins of what used to be the greatest military research facility in the galaxy. Her people, the Kelthari, had worked for the Vorthak Empire for over 200 years. They were scientists and engineers, not fighters. When the humans won the war, most Kelthari fled to distant worlds. But Zara stayed because she had work to finish. The door at the end of the corridor hissed open. Zara froze, her heart beating fast in her chest. A figure stepped through the doorway, wearing the brown uniform of the human colonial forces. He was tall for a human, with dark hair and green eyes that reminded Zara of the forests on her homeworld. The human raised his hands, showing he carried no weapons. His voice was calm and gentle when he spoke. "I know you're here, Zara. My name is Jake Collins. I work for the Human Science Division. We need your help." Zara stayed pressed against the wall. Her people could change the color of their skin to match their surroundings, but humans had better eyes than most species. They could see heat and movement in ways that made hiding difficult. "Why should I trust you?" she whispered, her voice carrying the musical tone all Kelthari possessed. Jake stepped closer, but kept his hands visible. "Because you're working on the Quantum Bridge project, and we both know what will happen if the Vorthak remnants get their hands on it." Zara's violet eyes widened. How could this human know about her research? The Quantum Bridge was her secret project, something she had been developing for years. It could open doorways between distant parts of the galaxy, instantly making travel and communication possible across any distance. The Vorthak remnants were groups of survivors who still believed their empire could return. They had been raiding human colonies and alien settlements for months, looking for weapons and technology. If they found the Quantum Bridge, they could bring their scattered fleets together in minutes. The war would start all over again. "You know nothing about my work," Zara said, but her voice shook. Jake smiled, and it was a kind expression, not the cruel grin of a conqueror. "I know you graduated first in your class from the Kelthari Science Academy. I know you worked on the Spacefold projects for 15 years. I know you're probably the smartest person in this part of the galaxy, and I know you're scared." Zara felt tears forming in her large eyes. She had been alone for so long, hiding and working and trying to complete her research before someone found her. She had not spoken to another living being in weeks. "Why do you want to help me?" "Because," Jake said, sitting down on the floor to make himself less threatening. "Humans learned something important during the war. We learned that the galaxy is better when different species work together. The Vorthak tried to rule everyone through fear and violence that never lasts." He pulled a small device from his pocket and placed it on the floor between them. "This is a communication device. It connects to the Human Research Network. We have scientists from 20 different species working together, sharing knowledge and ideas. The galaxy doesn't need another empire. It needs cooperation." Zara stared at the device. Its surface was smooth and warm, and she could see tiny lights blinking beneath the transparent shell. "What do you want from me?" "We want you to finish your Quantum Bridge project," Jake said, "but not alone. We want you to work with our best physicists and engineers. We want to help you test it safely. And when it's ready, we want to share it with everyone, not just humans." Zara had dreamed of this moment for years, the chance to complete her work with proper equipment and brilliant minds to help her solve the remaining problems. But she had also seen what happened to species that trusted others with their greatest discoveries. How do I know you won't steal my work? Jake laughed, and the sound was warm and genuine. Because humans are terrible at quantum physics. We can barely understand how our own, faster-than-light drives work. We need teachers, and the Keltari are the best teachers in the galaxy. He stood up slowly and extended his hand toward her. Besides, he continued, if we wanted to steal your research, we could have sent soldiers instead of one scientist. With good intentions, Zara looked at his outstretched hand. Human customs were strange, but she understood the gesture meant friendship and trust. Slowly, she stepped away from the wall, her skin changing from the dull gray of metal back to its natural, silver color. I have been working alone for so long, she said, taking his hand. Her fingers were longer than human fingers, and her skin felt cool to the touch. Jake squeezed her hand gently. You don't have to be alone anymore. Over the following days, Jake showed Zara the human research facilities. They were not as advanced as Vorthak laboratories, but they had something the Empire never possessed. They had hope. The human scientists were excited about every discovery, no matter how small. They shared their findings freely and celebrated each other's successes. Zara met Dr. Amy Chen, a quantum physicist who understood some of the mathematical principles behind spacefolding. She worked with Commander Lisa Park, an engineer who had designed the human faster-than-light communication systems. She even spoke with Professor Maria Santos, a xenobiologist, who studied how different alien species thought and learned. For the first time in her life, Zara was part of a real scientific community. The Quantum Bridge project moved forward quickly, with so many brilliant minds working together. They discovered new ways to stabilize quantum fields and developed safety protocols that would prevent catastrophic failures. Within months, they had built a small prototype that could connect 2 points in space across a distance of several light-years. But their success did not go unnoticed. The Vorthak remnants had spies throughout the galaxy, and they learned about the Quantum Bridge project. A fleet of raider ships began moving toward the human research station. Zara and the human scientists had perhaps 2 weeks before the attack arrived. We need to evacuate, Jake told the research team during an emergency meeting. The Vorthak have at least 12 ships heading this way. We can fight them and protect the research at the same time. But Zara stood up from her chair, her violet eyes bright with determination. No, she said in her musical voice. We don't run. We finish the project. The humans stared at her. Jake frowned and shook his head. Zara, this isn't worth dying for. We can continue the research somewhere else. You don't understand, she replied. The quantum bridge isn't just a transportation device. If we can complete the large-scale version, we can connect every peaceful species in the galaxy instantly. We can share knowledge and resources and help each other defend against threats. Like the Vorthak, Dr. Chen leaned forward in her chair. What are you suggesting? Zara smiled, and for the first time in months she felt truly hopeful. We build the largest quantum bridge ever created. We connect every world that wants peace and cooperation. And we show the galaxy that working together is stronger than ruling through fear. Jake looked around the room at his fellow scientists. Their faces showed excitement and determination. He nodded slowly. How long do we need? 2 weeks. Zara said, exactly as long as we have. The next 14 days were the most intense of Zara's life. The human research team worked around the clock building quantum field generators and stabilization arrays. Ships arrived from human worlds carrying supplies and more scientists. Even alien species that had remained neutral during the war sent representatives to help. Zara barely slept. She checked calculations and supervised construction, and coordinated with teams across multiple star systems. The quantum bridge grew larger and more complex each day until it filled an entire asteroid that had been hollowed out for the project. On the final day, as Vorthak ships appeared on the sensor screens, Zara stood before the massive quantum bridge array. Her hands moved across the control panels, activating systems she had dreamed about. For years, Jake stood beside her along with scientists from dozens of different species ready. He asked Zara, nodded, and pressed the activation sequence. The quantum bridge came to life with a sound like singing stars. Energy flowed through the massive array, and suddenly space itself seemed to bend around them. Doorways opened to distant worlds, and through those doorways came ships, but not Vorthak ships. Ships from the Antarian Republic arrived first, followed by vessels from the Terran Federation, and the Draconian Alliance fleets from species that had never worked together before, emerged from quantum doorways ready to defend the research station. The Vorthak raiders took one look at the massive Allied fleet and turned away. They had expected to find a small human research station. Instead, they discovered that the galaxy had changed. The Age of Empires was over, and the Age of Cooperation had begun. Zara watched the Allied ships take defensive P.